Praise you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. The skies have opened up. The sun has come out. It's a new day in America because the woke crowd has officially ended racism. So drum roll, please. Ladassen Jamants. Breaking news broke this morning. This according to the Wall Street Journal. That's what I affectionately like to call the Wall Street Journal. The Washington football team, formerly known as the Redskins, the political Puritans, have renamed themselves the Commanders. The Washington Commanders. The club dropped its longtime moniker, the Redskins, in 2020 after amplified criticisms that it was derogatory toward Native Americans. Well, I don't know if the head of this football team or the NFL is aware of this or not, but several Native American tribes were slave owners. And the word commander conjures up these images of militarism and imperialistic tendencies. And the city of Washington, D.C. was named after George Washington. Yes, he was one of our great founders, but he was also a slave owner. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but he wasn't necessarily our first president. We actually had presidents before George Washington, except they served like a one-year term. But George Washington was a slave owner, and he was the first commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. So I think it's time that you rename yourselves and move to a different city. I love this, folks. I absolutely love this because I've said this before. No matter how many Confederate flags you take down, statues you topple, books you burn, you cannot change what happened in history. And anytime you ask one of these woke activists how taking down a Confederate battle flag, toppling a statue, or burning a book is going to solve racism or end racism, it's deer in the headlights look every time. So I just love this. This cracks me up. So it says here, and by the way, this is an article from Andrew Beaton. So it came out today. By the way, it is Groundhog Day. The groundhog did see his shadow, 6 more weeks of winter. I hate to disappoint you. But today's date is pretty cool. It's 2/2/22. 2/2/22. So it says here, Washington's NFL team finally has a new name, the Commanders. The decision was unveiled after 2 seasons of playing as the Washington football team and 87 years as the Redskins, a moniker the team dropped in 2020 after amplified backlash over the name widely seen as a racial slur. A racial slur, yet Native American tribes owned slaves. The team, which is keeping its burgundy and gold colors, said the new name pays tribute to the culture of leadership in the Washington area. George Washington was a slave owner. Now the newly minted Washington Commanders face the uphill climb of engaging with a fan base that was once one of football's most fervent, but has seen the club struggle on the field and found itself at the center of numerous controversies off of the field. In the past 2 years alone, Washington has been the subject of 3 crises: an investigation for widespread sexual and verbal harassment inside the workplace, a contentious and public dispute between owner Dan Snyder and his limited partners, and public pressure that finally forced the franchise to adopt a new name. Coincidentally, this is Super Bowl week. Anybody kind of catch on to that? That they're doing this during Super Bowl week? Snyder, the controversial boss at the center of all these issues, had long vowed to never change the name. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell had even backed the name over the years. It had survived decades of criticism from politicians and activists who have no knowledge of history whatsoever, who decried it for being derogatory to Native Americans. And again, Native Americans were slave owners. Do you know what happened? You woke activists, do you know what happened with these tribal wars in America? You had tribes that wiped out other tribes for land. You know what the number one cause of death of Native Americans was? It wasn't disease from Europeans. No. The number one cause of death was starvation, followed by hyperthermia and cholera. Those were the 3 main causes of death Now, you can correct me in the comment section below if you want, and don't forget to click that like button, subscribe, hit me up on Instagram at hashtag Jason Composes, leave comments below, and you can reach me at Twitter, Cultural Confederacy at Twitter. But those were the three main causes of Native Americans. Now, the reason why there was an issue with Native Americans dying from exposure to these diseases of Europeans that came over here is because they were in an isolated area. Anybody who's taken ecology knows this. Whenever you have an isolated group and they're exposed to a disease for the first time, it's going to take them a while to get used to that disease. Look what happened with smallpox. That actually came over from Asia, I believe on ships, from the rats on ships from Asia. Smallpox was a major epidemic in the latter part of the 17th and well into the 18th century. But again, the backdrop of racial justice protest, here we go, that swept the country in 2020 after the killing of George Floyd. It all goes back to George Floyd. The landscape shifted. The NFL, which for years has been rocked by social justice issues after Colin Kaepernick began protesting during the national anthem, pivoted to more forcefully support their causes. Goodell released a video encouraging players to peacefully protest and saying the league should have listened to players earlier. Wait a minute, don't these players work for the NFL? Isn't that their employer? These employees work for the NFL. That's what these players are. They're employees of the NFL. Or this team, rather. Because these teams are franchised. The left one outstanding problem, squaring the league's stance with one of its club's names, which saw as being in direct conflict with its mission. Public pressure to change the name, though, wasn't new to the franchise. What changed was when some of the biggest financial partners of the team and the league took a stance on the matter. FedEx, the namesake of Washington Stadium, this is funny, and run by Fred Smith, one of the club's then minority owners, who had been at odds with Snyder, asked for a name change on July 2nd, 2020. Nike, the official apparel partner of the NFL, took the club's gear off. I'm reading this to you cold, by the way. Took the club's gear off its website. Other team sponsors such as PepsiCo and Bank of America joined the cause. And when they had this game, I believe it was between the Cowboys and I forget which other team, in 2018 at this FedEx Stadium, they had a railing that fell off of part of the stadium. Hey, some shady things be going on there, I tell you. On July 3rd, 2020, Washington said it was launching a review of the name. 10 days later, it was officially dropped. Before the 2020 season, the club decided to play at the Washington football team, a moniker, or probably play, I'm once again reading this too cold, to play as the Washington football team. Why don't they do these stories in larger print? Maybe I'm just getting older. Other contenders had included the Armada, President's Brigade, Red Hogs, Red Wolves, and Defenders. So these are the other names they were thinking of using or replacing the Redskins with. Then after 2 seasons playing under the type of generic name that is more common in European soccer, the club chose Commanders. The club, in its release, said that the identity is, quote, personified by mission-driven players who take command, forge success, and break barriers on and off the field. Quote, as an organization, we are excited to rally and rise together as one under our new identity, while paying homage to our local roots and what it means to represent the nation's capital. Your local roots. Slaves built the White House. There's your local roots for you. Hey, if you're going to win, folks, you got to play these people at their own game. Beat them at their own game. That's what you got to do. So this was a statement made by Dan Snyder. The selection resolves one of the problems surrounding the club Snyder had previously bought. Pardon me. Still getting over this cold here. Let me read this again. The selection resolves one of the problems surrounding the club Snyder had previously bought out the limited partners with whom he had been feuding. But the most prominent of those issues remained in the spotlight, or still remains in the spotlight. During the same month the team dropped its old name in 2020, the club hired attorney Beth Wilkinson to conduct a review of the franchise's workplace culture in response to a Washington Post story in which 15 women described being sexually or verbally harassed while working there. More reports of malfeasance, love that word, malfeasance, continue to emerge, including incidents involving Snyder and a settlement he made with a woman. He denied wrongdoing, and he apologized for the club's broader workplace problems. The investigation, which was eventually taken over by the NFL, finished last year. The team was fined $10 million, and the league concluded there were numerous incidents of misconduct while senior executives essentially ignored the issues. But unlike many past league-led investigations, the NFL did not produce a written report with specifics from the probe's findings. That led to sharp backlash, including from former team employees, over the lack of transparency. Those criticisms intensified after emails that surfaced in connection with the investigation that led to the resignation of former Las Vegas Raiders coach Jon Gruden. That's when the House Oversight and Reform Committee launched an investigation into the NFL's investigation. What a mess this is. That's actively going on. The powerful House Committee is conducting a roundtable Thursday with former team employees for them to discuss the workplace misconduct inside the team that's now called the Commanders. First of all, government needs to stay out of private business. Should have this relationship with businesses at an arm's length. That's the way it's supposed to be. That is the way it's supposed to be. We do not need some House committee getting involved with something that a business can solve on its own. But what I take away from this, if I just reflect on this article here, is that this team represents masculinity, and masculinity is bad because masculinity represents racism. It represents dominance. So they had to change their name because of George Floyd. They had to change their name because of all this misconduct, sexual misconduct, verbal abuse. Those are separate issues. See, this is the problem that the woke crowd makes. They connect the dots where you can't connect the dots. They try to merge everything together because they have no context of history. They have no real-world experience. And this is what you get. You get teams that rename themselves to get in touch with the woke crowd, to make themselves feel good. Because you had some misfit named Colin Kaepernick who wanted to kneel during the national anthem. Okay, fine, if he wants to kneel during the national anthem, but do it on your own time. Not when you're working for this company. It'd be like me at work, standing on the desk at work and shouting all these obscenities at people, saying the sky is falling, and talking about my politics. I'm there to do a job, earn a paycheck, and go home, period. That's why I have a YouTube channel. I can come here and I can talk about these issues with you, the audience. But this is too rich, folks. You can't, life truly is stranger than fiction. It really is. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click that like button, subscribe, hit me up on Instagram at #JasonComposes, leave comments below. Now you can reach me at Twitter, Culture Confederacy, the Confederacy at Twitter. Thank you for letting me suffer through this. And Wall Street Journal, please, when you print these articles, can you make it larger print? And not try to use such long sentences? How about being grounded once in a while? No knock on the Wall Street Journal, but, this is one thing I notice about journalists. They have to write in all this Florida language. Why don't you write in the language of the everyday man? Talk about where we live, what we go through. So this is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out, stay safe, everybody. God bless this great country. I'll catch you next time, and y'all have a great week.